Seriously, with that mask? Wow. Okay, time for Wildcat. Man, they are just blasting through these origin stories, aren't they? I mean, we've barely gotten to know Stargirl yet, and it's like the writers are already foaming at the mouth to introduce this entire team. Now, some people have said that they have to go fast because they only have 13 episodes, so there isn't much time to reform the JSA, to which my response is, why in the world do they have to do that in Season 1? I mean, reforming this world's greatest superhero team seems like something important enough that they should take their time and do it right. I mean, hell, I think The Flash is one of the worst shows on television, but even The Flash didn't try to get everyone in costumes right away. That took a couple seasons, and in the meantime, they just tried to focus on The Flash. And sure, he sucked, but at least we got to know the guy before the writers built a team around him. Arrow didn't have a team right away. Black Lightning didn't have a team right away. Why are these writers in such a hurry? Maybe try to make Stargirl herself a worthwhile character before surrounding her with other superheroes. It is her name in the title, after all. So yeah, I don't know why these writers seem to have no patience whatsoever when it comes to this stuff, but at any rate, it's time to meet the third member of the JSA. And it looks like my theory about Courtney's recruitment policy was spot on, but we'll get to that in a minute. The episode begins with another flashback, this one to 3 months ago, where Slutlocker Yolanda goes about her day in a musical montage that goes out of its way to show her as happy as humanly possible, almost comically so. She's got a really close family, and she's dating the asshole jock and running for student body president, and the only thing that could have made this more on the nose would be if they had set the whole sequence to Everything is Awesome from the Lego movie. So the asshole jock sends her a text one night asking for a sexy picture. He pressures her a couple times until she finally gives in, strips down, and sends him a titty pic. And I don't know how old the actress is, but the character is clearly supposed to be underage, so this was a little uncomfortable. And it's pretty obvious what's about to happen here, but she's a teenage girl, this is probably her first boyfriend, so we can forgive her for being a little naive. Later at school, asshole jock and all his friends are crowded around his phone because boobies. Asshole chick number 1 from last week takes the phone to see what the fuss is about and apparently emails the picture to herself before asshole jock can take the phone back. Then there's a school assembly where Yolanda's about to give a speech about the student government or whatever it is when asshole chick number 1 emails the titty pic to everybody. And she's really pleased with herself, though it is worth pointing out that asshole jock is shocked and does not look at all proud about this, even though he was delighting in showing off the picture to his friends earlier. Anyway, Yolanda's mortified and we're off and running. Fast forward to present day, where we find Courtney in her room inspecting all the JSA gear that she stole last week and is trying to get it to work. Completely ignoring Pat's warnings about how dangerous this stuff is, specifically the pink pen that I guess is supposed to turn into a thunderbolt or something. But luckily for Courtney, the pen doesn't blast her hands off, though it would have served her right, quite frankly, so she leaves it on her desk with the other pens, where I'm sure no one will ever touch it again, while she packs up everything else into a duffel bag, including what looks like a Green Lantern power battery, and stuffs it all in her closet. Courtney's complete lack of respect for such dangerous equipment is kind of infuriating. And again, that itself is not the problem. The problem is that nobody takes her to task on this. Now, I'm assuming Pat will once he finds out what she's doing, but Courtney doesn't listen to Pat. So I'm still waiting for someone or something to knock Courtney down a peg. And if her getting someone killed last week didn't do that, I have no idea what possibly could. Then she starts looking through her yearbook. She's gone to Blue Valley High School for maybe a week, and she has a yearbook. Even though those have to be ordered months in advance and only come out at the end of the school year. I wasn't just blowing smoke in the last video. These writers really have no damn clue how high school works. So at breakfast, Mike is complaining about wanting Pop-Tarts instead of food that won't rot his body from the inside out. He wants to bring a friend to dinner and complains about wanting burgers instead of chicken, and then when Barbara encourages Courtney to invite a friend herself, Mike says that Courtney has no friends. Because Mike is a dick. Seriously, I may not be Courtney's biggest fan, but at least she has some kind of character. Whereas Mike's only purpose on the show right now is to act like an absolute brat to everybody. And sadly, there was no continuation of the scintillating Mike gets a paper route subplot this week, so anyone waiting on pins and needles for that to become a thing must be just heartbroken. Barbara tells Courtney to just hang in there, she'll make some friends soon. You know, because making friends is something that skinny, pretty blonde girls really struggle with in high school. Then Pat tries talking to Courtney about that business of Joey getting killed in the previous episode, but screw character development, Courtney's already over that and thinks they should be out there recruiting new JSA members, like, now. But in keeping with Pat's role on the show up to this point, he tries to be the voice of reason, only for Courtney to completely ignore him. About the Injustice Society of America, which I'm just going to call the ISA because it's less of a mouthful and will hopefully lead to fewer blown takes on my part, Pat thinks that if they're in Blue Valley, he needs to find them without them knowing, and then he can alert the authorities. Just like he alerted the authorities when they defeated Brainwave in the high school parking lot. Wait. But Courtney being Courtney, she gets really snotty about this, and she's like, what if they are the authorities? And then she f***s off. At school, Courtney's JSA recruitment drive amounts to her basically just flipping through her yearbook and imagining who would look the coolest in a mask, I guess. And there's a picture of Yolanda wearing boxing gloves, so recruitment over. Let's get this girl a super suit. Yolanda's there too. She bumps into asshole Jock, but he isn't a jerk about it for a change. Then asshole chick number 1 hassles Yolanda to stay away from her boyfriend. And asshole chick number 1 is kind of the female Mike right now, in that she only exists to be a total bitch to everyone she interacts with. Courtney gets in her face, asshole chick number 1 tries to intimidate Courtney, and it's pretty laughable actually. She's like a one-dimensional Regina George with all the charisma and witty dialogue sucked out. But despite how hilarious a fight between these two would no doubt be, it never comes to that. And Yolanda just wants everyone, Courtney included, to leave her alone. Meanwhile, Pat shows up at the garage, and Joey's mom from last week is there with car trouble. It's not clear how they know each other exactly, but they do, and Pat tells her how sorry he is about her family, but she's not ready to talk about all this, and she takes a walk. Cut to Icicle entering his supervillain conference room where Dr. Ito is waiting for him. I'm not familiar with this character, but I really like the design of him. Very creepy voice, and he wears this cloth mask like the one Cobra Commander would wear sometimes, but you can see just enough of him to make out that under the mask, his face is kind of reptilian. Hats off to the character design, that was well done. So Dr. Ito says that he believes in the ISA more than any of the others, and he'll never betray Icicle. Not like the Shade did, that prick. And after a mention that in Icicle's absence, Dr. Ito has been working on his daughter, draw your own conclusions on that one, Icicle says that he's accelerating his plans for Project New America and wants to know what Ito needs to complete some kind of machine. Ito wants William's body. That's the ISA member that Icicle killed last week. So maybe Ito's machine is made of people? Who knows? Back at school, Courtney finds Yolanda in the gym wailing on a punching bag. And because breaking the ice with small talk is a lost art apparently, Courtney's like, hey girl, listen, there's something going on in Blue Valley and I need your help to fight it. And this is where the writers being in such a crazy rush to put this team together really works against them. Did Courtney have any kind of criteria when looking for new JSA members? Because literally the only things Courtney knows about Yolanda right now is that she gets bullied and she likes to punch things. Somehow I think the late Wildcat would want a little more to go on before signing off on this girl. So Yolanda can't get away from her fast enough, but Courtney practically begs her to come over for dinner because, well, Courtney just cannot take a fucking hint. Then Yolanda comes home, and now everything there is super depressing. The family barely talks to her. or each other for some reason. And it only takes about 30 seconds of that for Yolanda to decide that she's gotta get the hell out of here, so she asks if she can go to a friend's house for dinner, but the mom is a big bitch, so she scoffs at this. So dinner doesn't happen, but Courtney finds a picture of Yolanda and asshole Jock together in the yearbook, realizes they used to be a thing, and because she really can't take no for an answer, she waits for Yolanda in the gym the next day, and when she shows up, Courtney's like, I blew up asshole Jock's car. Wanna be a superhero? I'm kidding. She doesn't give a shit what Yolanda wants. But she's got Yolanda's attention now at least. So Yolanda breaks down and cries about the whole titty pic debacle. Her parents act like she doesn't exist, they won't bring her to church anymore, and her mom is probably spending her free time making a Yolanda voodoo doll. Because how dare their daughter be the victim of a cruel prank? The audacity of Yolanda! No wonder they practically disowned her! So basically the titty pic thing pretty much ruined her life. And she doesn't want to hate anyone, but damn it, she hates Henry King! That's asshole Jock's real name. Much less memorable than the name I gave him, but them's the breaks. She does want to see how Courtney blew up his car though, so now that Courtney's got a bite, she just starts reeling this fish in. Courtney still comes off as annoyingly pushy, but the actress playing Yolanda was very good here. I already feel more sympathy for her than I do for Courtney. Granted, I can say that about a lot of these characters, but you gotta start somewhere. Back at the garage, Joey's mom has packed up her car and she's leaving town forever. But before she goes, she tells Pat not to trust this place, because William didn't die of a heart attack. Also, she has all of Joey's magic stuff because Joey wanted to be just like his dad, the councilman. This strikes Pat as kinda weird. So did Joey and the mom know that William was a supervillain? We never find out. Too bad, because it's by far the thing I most wanted to know after this scene. And then we're in the basement where Courtney is showing Yolanda the cosmic staff, which she has to scold into doing what she tells it to do like a misbehaving puppy. But Yolanda's never heard of Starman or the JSA somehow, and rather than explain things to her, or even ask her what she thinks about all this, Courtney's like, come on, let's go try on your superhero costume! Because Courtney just has her heart set on Yolanda being the new Wildcat. And no, Yolanda does not get a choice in the matter. So she tries on the Wildcat suit, complaining that it smells really bad. Well, what do you expect? The last Wildcat died in it. It conforms to fit her body like magic. And the suit is alright, but wow, the mask is so goofy. It looks like cosplay, I'm sorry. I felt kind of embarrassed for the actress, actually. And the embarrassment doesn't abate when they have to look up Wildcat on Wikipedia to find out what his powers are. And this feels like something Courtney really should have figured out before she had someone try on the suit. What if the suit had weapons that Yolanda triggered without knowing what she was doing? What if she hurt herself? What if she accidentally killed someone because she has no idea what the suit can do? None of these things ever even occur to Courtney. Because of course they don't. So the suit gives the user retractable cat claws and super agility, which they test by Yolanda destroying Pat's toaster and walking across a fence. And then Courtney's like, you should jump off a building now! Literally, the next scene is Yolanda almost jumping off a building. Because Wikipedia says that Wildcat could do that. Well, if it's in Wikipedia, it must be true! I mean, if you really wanted to test this ability, could you not start by jumping off of something smaller? Like a one-story building? The jungle gym at the park, maybe? Nah, screw it. That's something Pat would have suggested. So we could just go ahead and ignore that, right, Courtney? So at the last moment, Courtney has second thoughts about Yolanda possibly plummeting 5 stories to her death, but Yolanda wants to stop being afraid to be herself and tries to jump anyway. But Courtney stops her and thinks that they should just take the stairs instead. So yeah, Courtney was the rational one for a change. Don't get excited though, it was just a fluke. Back at the house, Mike tries to make more Pop-Tarts, but he can't because the toaster is trashed. Because rather than get rid of it so no one would find out what she's doing, Courtney just put the destroyed toaster back on the kitchen counter. Didn't hide it or throw it away or anything. Then Mike calls for his dad. So obviously this is going to be the big moment where Pat connects the dots and learns the truth that Courtney stole the JSA gear and has been secretly recruiting her very own I'm just messing with you. The episode never follows up on this at all. Courtney and Yolanda see Henry driving by, most likely on his way to visit his dad, who is a supervillain, Courtney explains, and Yolanda realizes that maybe other supervillains are visiting him too, which gives Courtney the bright idea to break into the hospital and get a lot of people killed. I'm not even kidding. She very nearly does exactly that. So they go to the hospital. Courtney orders Yolanda to scale the building 7 stories high because that's something else Wildcat can do according to Wikipedia. And to the writer's credit, Yolanda does not do this perfectly, and in fact almost dies in the process because she's a complete newbie and has no idea how to superhero. Imagine that. She almost gets spotted by a security guard, but the guard is distracted when Beth shows up. She's the other kid from the loser's table, the one who's creepily attached to her parents. So anyway, Yolanda climbs inside through a 7-story window while Courtney has snuck into a supply closet and is about to cut the power. In a hospital where patients are being kept alive by machines. Thankfully, Yolanda points out that life support is a thing before Courtney becomes a murderer. And I love Yolanda's reaction to this because she very quickly starts asking perfectly logical questions that anyone with a single ounce of common sense would ask in this situation. How long have you been doing this? A week. How long did your dad train you for? He didn't. And why am I listening to you? I don't fucking know, Yolanda. It's kind of a mystery. For the record, this was the first time in 4 episodes that someone pointed out that Courtney needs training to be a superhero. So we're already on our 3rd member of the new JSA, and Courtney is still by far the stupidest one. Even the cosmic staff has more common sense than her. I'm not kidding about that either. The staff even knew that killing the power was a terrible idea, while Stargirl, our title hero, for some reason needed this explained to her. And while I do appreciate that the other characters keep telling Courtney how reckless she is, it becomes more and more frustrating if she never actually lets that sink in. So the staff goes berserk and wrecks the supply closet, and the nurse comes to see what the commotion is, giving Yolanda a chance to check the sign-in sheet to see who's been visiting Brainwave. Excuse me, writers? Hi. Why did they have to sneak in to do this? They could have just visited Brainwave and read the sheet when they signed in themselves. They could have written fake names on it or something. No one would have known they'd been there. Why did they have to make a big production out of this? Screw breaking in. They could have walked in through the front door. The whole thing would have been easy. Did they really have to jump through this many hoops just so Yolanda could show off her fancy schmancy wall climbing powers? While this is happening, we cut to Beth having dinner with her mom, who seems pretty anxious to get rid of her, and tells Beth that she should go hang out with her friends instead of bringing her dinner every night. But Beth says that her mom and dad are her best friends. And if ever there was a line that proved these writers have no clue how teenagers behave, that would be it. Yolanda sneaks into Brainwave's room. Henry is there visiting his dad, who's still in a coma or whatever. So Yolanda whips out her toaster-destroying claws and is legit about to murder this kid. And see, Courtney, this is why you properly vet people before you give them a super suit, you fucking Nimrod. But at the last moment, Henry tells his dad that he misses him, and him displaying a personality trait that is not asshole makes Yolanda think that he might not deserve to die after all. So she hides on the ceiling while he leaves the room, and then the girl's principal comes in with a violin case. She plays the violin for Brainwave. She seems to expect something to happen, but it doesn't. So she packs up the violin, and she leaves. And she somehow never even noticed Courtney, who was watching this right outside the open window, barely even trying to conceal herself. Beats me what that's about, but the girls decide to call it a night, so they escape through the window, while Beth is in the parking lot watching them, and hears Courtney call Yolanda by her name. So yeah, between this and the toaster, Courtney is really not very good at this secrecy thing. So the principal didn't sign in on the sheet, which is suspicious, I guess, and Courtney wants to investigate, but Yolanda is still under the impression that she doesn't have to risk her life fighting deadly supervillains if she doesn't want to, and tries to swipe left on the whole Wildcat thing. But not because Courtney is dangerous, reckless, has no idea what she's doing, and could get many people killed. All those reasons would have been fine. But Yolanda's reasons are that when the titty pics came out, she felt ashamed and didn't want to be herself anymore, so she has to get her own life back before she can be someone else. So basically, under reasons not to join Courtney's JSA, just check all the above. So Yolanda goes home to talk to the family and get everything off her chest. I did something I shouldn't have, I made a mistake, but that was months ago, I feel like I've been punished enough, and I really love you guys, so can you please just cut me some slack already, because I've really learned my lesson. I mean, really the only lesson to be learned here was don't trust assholes, but okay. Very heartfelt words from Yolanda, but her parents are just not having it. You brought shame to us all, you're a disgrace to the family, you're a disgrace to yourself, god damn it, why couldn't we have just used a condom? This whole thing could have been avoided. So Yolanda gets sent to her room again, and holy shit, her parents suck. Is it normal in Hispanic culture for the mom and dad to be so unforgiving about this type of stuff? Or is this a religious thing? At least her little brother seems to think they're being dicks about this, but the mom and dad don't care, and the grandma doesn't even bat an eye. All this because Yolanda took a couple naughty pictures? What a bunch of jerks! So Yolanda's heartbroken all over again, but her mood changes when she discovers that Courtney has been in her room. And because Courtney does not respect other people's wishes, feelings, or even their personal space, she has left Yolanda the Wildcat suit along with a note that reads, I can't do this alone. Courtney needs Yolanda because she can't do this alone. So yeah, that Pat guy, he doesn't count. And because the show always has to take Courtney's side in every issue apparently, Yolanda instantly has a change of heart, suits up, and heads off to Courtney's house, hopefully to explain to Courtney in greater detail why cutting power to life support machines in a hospital is bad. And the episode ends with Pat visiting a junkyard, looking for spare parts that he can make a tank out of, potentially? I don't know. So he's looking around, and he happens upon Joey's mom's car. All smashed up, Joey's magic stuff still in there, she's nowhere to be found, but thankfully her cat survived. So, whew, we dodged a bullet. Alright, so we're 4 episodes into Stargirl now, and the show is in kind of a weird place. There were a number of positives here. It was a good episode for Yolanda. She was well acted, decently written for the most part, though the writers did go overboard in their efforts to make her sympathetic by making her parents as cruel as they did. And I did come out of this episode enjoying Yolanda quite a bit. In fact, I kind of wish the show was about her now, because she's a lot more likable, level-headed, and let's not kid ourselves, smarter than Courtney is. I also appreciate how they're avoiding a mistake the Batwoman writers made by not overexposing the villain. Last episode was heavy on Icicle. This week he's in one scene, because the story focuses on something else. This approach will definitely help the audience to not get sick of Icicle in the future. Not that I ever got sick of Alice, because she was the only character that was fun to watch on Batwoman, but the show was so focused on her that she started overshadowing many of the other characters, up to and including Batwoman a lot of the time. The Stargirl writers look like they're taking a more conservative approach with Icicle, and I think that'll be beneficial. But there are still problems with Stargirl, and the biggest one, unfortunately, is Stargirl herself. Now, it is good that we're seeing more characters pointing out that Courtney is reckless, needs training, and doesn't think before she acts, but Courtney is still not changing or developing as a result of this. She keeps ignoring the very good advice Pat gives her, and either succeeds despite that, like in this episode, or fails and is unaffected by it, like in last week's episode, and the writers always seem to end up taking her side regardless. And the second biggest problem is the pacing. The writers are in such a huge hurry to reform the JSA as quickly as possible that they keep ignoring really important details. Yolanda learns about the JSA, becomes Wildcat, has her first mission as Wildcat, quits being Wildcat, then becomes Wildcat again all in one episode. And at no point did Courtney ever ask her, do you actually want to do any of this? She just decided that Yolanda was Wildcat now, despite knowing virtually nothing about this girl, and practically threw the costume at her. Yolanda didn't even get a choice in the matter. Even when she tried to quit, Courtney still couldn't take no for an answer and basically tried to guilt her into staying. And story-wise, there's also the issue of the entire hospital break-in subplot being completely unnecessary. They literally could have just walked in the front door and visited Brainwave like Pat did in episode 3. And the fact that neither of them even thought of this is kind of baffling. That being said, ultimately this story was going to rise and fall based on how well Yolanda came across, and if the episode got one thing right, it was her. Yolanda turned out to be a likable, engaging character, so for the most part the episode works despite the problems with it. Seriously though, you gotta make the Wildcat mask look better. The poor girl just looks silly in that thing. And that was episode 4. Still a flawed show in a lot of ways, but there are things to like too. I'm not ready to call it a good show yet, but thus far, watching and reviewing Stargirl has not been an altogether torturous experience. Suck it, Batwoman. If you enjoyed this Stargirl video, I've reviewed every episode so far. There's a playlist on the channel, so check that out. Also, while you're here, tell me what you thought of the episode down below. Ding that bell icon and follow me on Twitter using the link in the description so you can always be notified about new videos. Like, share, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed, because YouTube may have unsubscribed you since the last time you were here, and I'll be back with more very soon. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.